What's going on? It's the Big Rig Bull, Texas truck accident lawyer Reshard Alexander, back in the building again today. Today we're going to cover the second portion of the general requirements for hauling hazardous materials. So we're going to get started on that. Not much to report other than that. Working on cases, working on my new website. So I got 44 days to put this thing up, so I'm pushing ahead. Check out the new board session or the latest board session, and I'll talk to you later. Take it easy. What's going on? It's the Big Rig Bull, Texas truck accident lawyer Reshard Alexander, here on a Friday afternoon here in Houston, Texas. On episode 47, we are covering part 2 of the general requirements for hauling hazardous materials. In this episode or vlog post, we will be talking about the emergency response information for hazardous material shipments. We'll be talking about the emergency response telephone number as well as the name of the provider. We'll be talking about the single labels on hazardous material shipments. We'll also be talking about when duplicate labels are required. Lastly, we'll be talking about placards and the basic rules for placarding. So there we are. That's the start. Let's go ahead and get started without further ado. So when we're dealing with hazardous material shipments and we're talking about emergency response information, we must have, number one, either the emergency response information or the association with the shipping paper. The exception for ORMDs, the exception for that particular situation or emergency response information is ORMDs or other regulated materials. But most shipments will require those one of those two things on them. All right. The shipping paper must be in the form of either, number one, an emergency response guidebook, or number two, a SDS or safety data sheet, and lastly, 3, any other form providing all the information as required in section 172.602. Moving right along to the emergency response telephone number. So I put this on here. It says it must be entered on shipping paper immediately following description of each hazardous material, or entered once on shipping paper in a clearly visible location if it applies to all hazardous material on the shipping paper. Right? Now, the name of the provider of the emergency response information, or who is registered with the emergency response information, which is also known as the ERI provider, or their ERI service provider contract number, or the other unique identifier must be entered. And now this is not needed if, all this stuff is clearly visible, but for the most part, you're going to have the ERI provider information on there somewhere. Okay? Now, when we're talking about the labels, generally speaking, you just need a single label, but there are situations where you will need a duplicate label. We'll get to that pretty soon. But for the single labels, they have to be diamond shaped. All right, that's the first thing. The second thing is they need to be at least 3.9 inches or 100 millimeters on each side of the sign. The shipper is required to affix the label before shipping, and the driver should not accept the package or the shipment or the load unless the labels are properly affixed, unless they are unobscured by any other markings, and the labels are near the shipping name marking. Okay? The label can be affixed to a securely affixed tag, or printed or placed by other means if one of these things are the situation at hand. Number one, it contains no radioactive material and no dimensions less than those required by the label. Number two, it can be a cylinder. Or number 3, it can be a package with an irregular surface that a label cannot be satisfactorily affixed. It's common sense. I mean, it makes sense, right? If you can't put the label, slap the label on the package, then these are the situations where you can print or place and attach a tag to those loads or those shipments. Now, moving along to the duplicate situations or the duplicate labels when they're required. A duplicate label will be required in these 6 situations. When there's a volume of 64 feet squared or cubed or more, Number 2, there's the non-bulk package containing radioactive material. Number 3, there's a DOT 106 or 110 multi-unit tank card tank. Number 4, there's a portable tank of less than 1,000 gallon capacity. Notice I said capacity. I didn't say it was the actual volume. It's the capacity. Number 5, there's a freight container or aircraft unit load device having a volume of 64 feet cubed or more, but less than 640 feet cubed. All right, and the last one, number 6, is each IBC having a volume of 64 feet cubed or more. All right, the last subject we're going to address is placards. Placards, in most situations, the shipper is responsible for providing the appropriate placards to the carrier for a shipment. The carrier is responsible for applying them correctly to the vehicle and maintaining them during transport. Now, if there's an aggregate shipping situation, the carriers are responsible for the placarding. But if there's large freight containers, 640 cubic feet or more, it must be placarded by the shipper. Now, when it comes to the placards, they have to be diamond shaped as well. They measure at least 9.84 inches or 250 millimeters on each side. And the words and the ID numbers must be horizontal. Any writing must be from left to right. Now, the basic rules for placarding are what I've located here below. There's 4 of them. You must securely attach to the vehicle or place in proper placard holder for every placard. Number 2, it must be located at least 3 inches or 76 millimeters away from any other type of marking on the package or the vehicle. Number 3, the words and numbers on the placards must be read horizontally. Number 4, the placards must be clearly visible and maintained in a legible condition throughout the trip. Now, usually in these types of situations, you can't move a vehicle if the hazardous material labels are not correct, or the shipments are not properly marked. But there are 3 situations where you can move a hazardous materials truck or commercial motor vehicle without having a proper placarding. And that would be if the vehicle is escorted by a state or local government representative. Number 2, if the carrier received from the Department of Transportation the go-ahead to move that product or that shipment, that load. And number 3, the movement is necessary to protect life and property. This wraps up today's vlog on the general requirements for hauling hazardous materials part 2. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. As always, feel free to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can be abreast or stay abreast of when the next vlog will come out. This is the Big Rig Bull, Texas Truck Accident Warrior, Reshard Alexander. Hoping you have a blessed day, and I'm signing out right here. Take it easy.